Lying in and around the Savannah homestead, just south of Derwent, Alberta, is a remarkable and almost forgotten past. This humble structure is where our story begins, a history of rich stories and faded memories that have almost decayed with it. This is a compilation of only a few of those historical moments, of a village that has gone through many seasons of change in its day. These are the days of Derwent's past and present. These are the trailblazers who have led the way and prepared the way for us. To fully appreciate how Derwent took its place on the map, we go back to one of its original and colorful settlers, Albert Paul Joseph Monkman. Monkman was a secretary to Louis Riel. When Riel was tried and hanged, his followers throughout the prairies headed for the bush country, keeping out of the way of the white settlements as much as possible. One group of Métis followed A.P.J. Monkman to settle this region from the Camrose area to the North Saskatchewan River. He established his homestead, a post office, and colony in 1909, here less than a kilometer south of present-day Derwent. This area was first named Peguis, after an Indian chief from the Saltee tribe from Manitoba. In 1911, Albert James Monkman left for Manitoba and died soon thereafter. His son Alf, who was born on June 23, 1875, took over the homestead and post office, renaming it Monkman. Alf Monkman hauled the mail between Vermilion and Elk Point, and later began hauling cream and other freight. About this time, a young Swedish man named Gustav Algot arrived in the region. He had recently come to Canada, first settling in Wetaskiwin, learning English and developing his carpentry skills. In 1908, he and a group of friends, most of them from Scandinavian descent, followed the Indian Trail and began homesteading in the area around Angle Lake. Others came. The Dufours, the Lindblooms, the Tellers, and the Deals moved in with their cattle. Then came the Ukrainian settlers, many from the old country and often sponsored by the families in Canada from the Lamont and Mundare area. They bought out much of the Métis land. Farming in the region of Deadman Lakes and Angle Lakes was hampered by the distance of delivering their feed and livestock to market in Vermilion. For part of the year of 1928, Gustav Algot, who was already set up as a general merchant and farm equipment agent, also provided a delivery supply service between Vermilion and Derwent. With his 1921 International Speedwagon truck, he often traveled 3 trips a day to Vermilion and back, 62 miles round trip, 186 miles a day. Then relief came. In 1928, the Canadian Pacific Railway put its branch line through. Almost by miracle, land which had been idle or used for grazing was now put under cultivation. 55,000 acres were broken in 1929 and another 55,000 in 1930.
You remember the train that coming to Derwent and the construction of the railroad and that? Yeah. And John Landon building the hotel at the same time. Yeah.
It was built, I think, about the first building.
There was 2 trains, one in the morning, one in the evening, huh? In the evening he'd go to Lloyd, in the morning he'd come back. So you can get a train twice a day. And everybody would walk up to the train to meet, see who would come off the train. And Alec Jutkowski would take the freight with his dray and he'd deliver it around town.
Farmers turned from horse farming to tractor farming, and the productivity of the country increased immensely. Railway officials asked the people what to name the district. The Ukrainians wanted a name that reflected their origins. Some even suggested Ukraine. Others wanted to name the area Monkman, in obvious honor of Albert and Alf. Gustav Algot suggested North Bend. On behalf of all concerned, the squabble ended when Gustav wrote to the railway company and told them to decide on a name. A letter came back with a suggestion of Derwent, referring to the lake country of England. It may have been a more appropriate name than they knew, for there were many lakes in the area. Carmelita Miller, well into her 90s, today remembers the early days of the CPR in Derwent. She also served as a waitress at the Star Hotel.
Now, the train that you're on, that's with Mrs. Landon and the engineer, and there was another lady with you.
I don't know who she was. I'm not sure.
No, it's in the picture, but that train was the first one. As
The
it says in
first one that come through there.
First one, yeah.
Yeah, it was the first one. And, but they had most of the buildings up before the train come through.
How long did you work for the Landons in the hotel?
I left there, well, I was married in June the 6th of 29. So I left there then.
Were you living in the hotel there?
Yeah, we lived right in the hotel.
And you were, as I understand, you said you were one of the first,
I was the first waitress.
and that would have been in 27, I guess, eh?
I guess it was.
Yeah, because Mr. Landon built the hotel in 1927.
I was there when they opened up.
The town of Derwent mushroomed in the years between 1928 to 1930. From a few buildings to start with, a restaurant, a pool room, and Bank of Toronto, which incidentally, because of an error, was constructed right in the middle of Main Street and remained there for some months. Among the early pioneer businessmen of Derwent in 1927 and 1928 were a number of original homesteaders from the surrounding district and laborers from the larger towns such as Vermilion. To name a few, there was John Landon in the Star Hotel, Gustav J. Algott's Machinery and General Store, Alex Robertson, manager of the Bank of Toronto, the general stores of John Kobilnik and Frank Ilkew, John Hanasic, machinery and stock buyer, James and William Gregalick's garage, Wong Chun's restaurant, Chapman's pool room, J. Nelson's meat and groceries, Marmick's barn and dray, C.V. Larson's machinery and hardware, M. Cry's blacksmith, and A. Miller's creamery.